People don't buy bad land because they're careless. They buy bad land because they don't know what questions to ask. When I first started, I had no experience, very little money, and no one to walk me through it. But I realized early on that this one step matters most. And when I started calling the county, I realized something that I didn't expect. Before I seriously started to look at land, I considered the county. I realized that if I made a bad decision here, that it could cost me years. And so I called the county. I called multiple departments. I started to ask questions like, can I live in my RV? Do I need to have a septic system right out the gate? What are the zoning rules? What can I build and what can't I build without a permit? I didn't have experience, so I really didn't know what I was doing, but what I did know was guessing wasn't going to be the right way to approach it. I've found that both difficult situations and difficult people are opportunities. You should face both of these head on and with patience. And so a difficult situation forces you to learn how to solve that situation. And you'll be better at solving other situations in the future because of it. Here's the part that people don't talk about. The county doesn't always have clear answers and solutions to every question. Different departments have different understandings, and they don't all collaborate and talk through exactly how to approach every given situation. So one department might say, yeah, you could build a house if you have this, X, Y, and Z. Another department might say, well, actually it requires A, B, and C. That means that sometimes you're going to hear yes from one person and potentially no from another. But what's that saying about coincidences, right? There's only so many coincidences. And if you call every department and overall they're generally saying that this is the direction you can move, that's a whole lot better than guessing. In fact, guessing is probably the worst way to approach it. There's also something going on that seems to confuse a lot of people. And I'm sure you know as well as I do, there are a lot of people who share complete horror stories about permits and the entire process. And I've found that oftentimes the horror stories mostly come from people who have never experienced it themselves. A lot of times people are just simply regurgitating what they've seen or heard or read on the internet. Maybe they planned to do it but never did. A lot of people have a fantasy about off-grid living. Maybe they buy a piece of land but they still live in the city. And so for them, it makes sense to just kind of try to cut the corners and not walk through the process. But if you're going to start a homestead and you want to build a home on it, I would face it head on and find out exactly what you can and can't do and just make that part of the plan. So what I find is the worst things that are said about starting off-grid and working through permits and whatnot usually come from people who've never done it. And the people who have success stories are the ones who have. I think that if you're looking to build something long-term that's actually going to work, that's just the right way to do it. So when you call the county, the goal's not to get flawless answers, and you probably never will. There's a whole lot of code and interpretation there. But the goal is to not have to guess and to have a good direction and a path forward. And by calling the county, calling the departments, taking down some names, writing down what they said, how they summarized each different point for you, is going to give you clarity so that you can move forward. Because at the end of the day, one bad land purchase can cost you thousands of dollars and years of time. So, I did research before I called, and I focused on zoning and permits and septic system, living on the land. Can you use an RV, a camper van? Can you do a tent? Can any of this be done temporarily? Some places won't allow it at all. You don't need to know absolutely everything, but it'll help out if you don't make obvious mistakes. Over time, I realized that doing due diligence was one of the things that often gets skipped, and so I built a checklist, and it's the same checklist that I used to build my homestead here. If you want a free copy of it, you can download it on my website. So I'm not trying to give you tips and tricks on how to start a homestead. This isn't the easiest way to approach it, calling the county up front, finding the off-grid friendly county first, then finding land and running it through a checklist. But if you're trying to build a forever home, like I am, I think it makes a lot of sense to start out on the right foot. That's the difference between guessing your way through it and actually building something that works.